What is up, math superstars? In this edition of Mr. Peterson Presents, I bring to you Objective 7.4. We're talking about scale drawings. So in scale drawings, we have some keywords that we're going to chat about and then talk about how they're used in drawings and mathematics. So first word we have is scale. So when we talk about the scale, this is the relationship between the measurements on the drawing or the model and the measurements of the real objects. So we talk about the scale drawings. This is using the scale now. What we're doing is we're drawing something that's either too large or too small to be drawn in actual size. And these are always like really fun pictures. So if you, on the highway, I think there's like a Sheetz gas station and they have a big picture of a hot dog. And it says right underneath of it, not the actual size. And you go, obviously so, they did a scale drawing of something that was too small to put on a billboard. And so with scale drawings, so the distances on the scale drawing, these are proportional. So once again, in this whole unit, we're talking about setting up that proportion, but they are proportional to the real life distances or sizes that they represent. So here we're given this map, and obviously this map is not the real life size of the city. Otherwise it'd be some really tiny people. But this map is an example of a scale drawing here. And so the scale, so if you follow the arrow right here, this is the scale that we're talking about. This is the ratio of the given length on the drawing to its corresponding actual length. So on this map, 1 inch, so if we had a ruler and we measured 1 inch on this map, would be equal to 833 feet. And so we can use the scale on this map to find out the actual distance between cities and landmarks. To do this, we're going to write and solve a proportion. So here we have example number 1. So on the map of Florida, the distance between Coral Springs and Fort Lauderdale is about 4.1 centimeters. The scale on the map is 1 centimeter is equal to 4.5 kilometers. What's the actual distance? And so we know that in real life, it's not really 4.1 centimeters to Coral Springs and Fort Lauderdale. So this is the measurement on this map. And so let's go and start with the scale. So we have our scale right here. So we have 1 centimeter is going to be over 4.5 kilometers. So every time we measure 1 centimeter, that's going to be equal to 4.5 kilometers. And so we given some information here. What's the actual distance would be x. So actual distance we're talking about is the denominators here. And our numerators is how much we measured on the map. So we measured 4.1 centimeters. So what we can do to solve for x, let's go ahead and cross multiply here. And so when we cross multiply our sides here, 1 times x gives us x being equal to, let's do 4.5, let's do it right in the calculator. Sorry, I'm making mistakes on my calculator. Please don't do that. 4.5 times 4.1, when we cross multiply these, gives us 18.45. And we are solving for kilometers. Let's go ahead and add our label is in kilometers. So using our scale, we figured out the distance between Coral Springs and Fort Lauderdale is 18.45 kilometers. So now we have example number 2. So on our map of North Carolina, the distance between Raleigh and Charlotte is 3¼ inches, or we can say that is going to be 3.25 inches. Obviously not real life. Otherwise we'd be there just by stepping. But so the scale on our map, 1 inch is equal to 40 miles. What is the actual distance? So let's go ahead and start with our scale. We have 1 inch is going to be equal to 40 miles. That's going to be equal to, on our map, was 3.25 inches. And we're solving for how many miles that's going to be. So now let's go ahead and cross multiply these. So 1 times x is going to give us x. Then we have 40 times 3 1/4. So 40 times 3.25 gives us 130. And since we're solving how many miles, we can say that's 130 miles. In example number 3, the distance between Houston and Austin on the map is 2 3/4 inches. On the scale, so here's our scale. The scale on the map is 1 inch for every 50 miles. So we got to figure out what the actual distance is. Actual distance is going to be x miles. And 2 3/4 inches, we can write that as 2.75 inches. And let's go ahead and cross multiply. So we have x being equal to 50 times 2.75 gives us 137.5, and this is in miles. So when we talk about scale factor, so here's another definition here. Scale factor, this is the ratio of the length of a scale drawing on a model to the corresponding length in real life. And so we could say that the scale factor might be double or triple. So we say times 2 or times 3. Or if it's getting smaller, we can say that maybe the scale is cut in half or by 1/4. So we say that's being divided by 2, divided by 4. So let's go ahead now and let's give you some steps here, and then we're going to do some examples. So to find the scale, we're just going to write the scale as a ratio. So with the scale length on the top, the actual length on the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change the lengths to the same unit of measure here. This is key. We're going to use the same unit of measure. And so it's typically easier to convert the bigger unit to a smaller unit. So it's easier to go maybe feet to inches because we're going to have whole numbers versus working with decimals. And then we're going to simplify. So suppose we have a scale model with a scale 2 inches is for every 3 feet. What is the scale factor here? So if we're going to do this problem, we have 2 inches over 3 feet. What we have to do is let's convert 3 feet into inches. So this is 3 times, we know there's 12 inches for every foot. When we convert that, it's going to give us 36 inches over 2 inches. So what we did is we just changed 3 feet to inches. So we have inches over inches. And we can solve for our scale factor now by simplifying this fraction. When we simplify it, it simplifies to 1 over 18. And so we can say that the scale factor for our map is 1 over 18. So for every inch, we're going 18 inches. So now supposedly our scale here, we have 2 inches for every 4 yards. What is the scale factor here? And so now the biggest thing, let's take yards and convert that to inches. So in order to do that, 4 yards, we know that that's equal to 3 feet. So if we're going to do that, so now we have 12 feet. So we have 12 feet in 4 yards. But now we need to convert that to inches. And so we know that there is 12 inches for every foot. So if we multiply that by, so if we multiply by 12 inches, that's going to give us 144 inches. And so let's go ahead now and do some awesome and amazing math for this. And so we have 144 inches. So now we have 2 inches over 144 inches. So now let's figure out the scale factor here. So if when we simplify this, we divide the top and bottom by 2 to simplify. We have 1 inch. For every 1 inch, our scale factor here, we're representing in real life, 144 divided by 2 gives us 72 inches.